This is Whiskey Whereabouts. I'm Tim, and this is 12-year Macallan, 100% sherry matured, majority European oak, bottled at 55% for a price that is not ridiculous. What is going on? My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Islay to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. As I talked about last time I reviewed Macallan, I did the 12-year, the one that used to be in the blue box. Everything's gone red with this new rebranding. And so I reviewed the Macallan 12, the double cask. I'll put the link up here. And in that review, I talked about Macallan and how they have, it's a Speyside distillery, although they don't admit that on the bottle. And they have short sort of squat stills, which they are very proud of, and descending line arms. And basically it's a whole sort of setup in the distillation portion of the whiskey production, going for heavier compounds. The issue sort of with Macallan is not about the quality of the whiskey as much as it is a little watered down, literally, meaning core range 43% bottlings, at an elevated premium price. A premium beyond what we would expect to pay for a 12-year Speyside whiskey with similar specs. But to me, this whiskey feels like a flex. It feels like somebody at Macallan saying, yeah, I know what your problems are with our presentation. And we could deliver a whiskey exactly like you're talking about. We could do a whiskey that stands up to or maybe even surpasses the whiskey that's being put out there by your sort of, enthusiast crush Speyside distillery, if we wanted to. We don't need to, and it doesn't suit our larger sort of goals and strategy, but just so you know. But let's talk about the whiskey. So like I said, it's 55% 12 years, so it's not cask strength, and it doesn't say anything about chill filtration. Now, I've seen a lot of discussion about this whiskey, as you can imagine, and a lot of reviewers trying to deduce whether or not it's chill filtered. Some pointing out that the legs are pretty rich. Some, as we're going to get to, the experience of the whiskey leaning one way, some leaning the other way, but it doesn't say it. And the other thing is that it's very sort of delicate on the bottle. On the back of the label, it says something that's very, very particularly phrased, where it says that the character of this whiskey is led by European oak cask seasoned with sherry wine and Jerez. Okay, led by, not fully European oak. Now, there's more information on the back of the box. There's a diagram. It's a little, I've seen people confused by it, but it basically has a diagram that has 6 little circles. And one of the 6 is white, and 5 are red. And red is European, and white is American oak. It's all sherry seasoned. So it says that's not to be, this is just for an illustration and a representation. It's not exact, but basically they're trying to show a ratio where there's a little bit of American oak, mostly the European oak, but they're not committing to the full transparency like an actual craft sort of focused distillery might, the way an Ardent American, the way a Bruichladdich might do. But we've got some parameters, and that's nice to know. And the other thing I want to say is we don't know if they're first fill casks, but this is very rich whiskey, and the color is very dark. It's red. It's really rich and dark, and it's real. It's real color. We know that. It says it on the label. Macallan doesn't use fake color. So we've got a pretty intriguing, but still slightly mysterious and opaque presentation here. But what we do know is we got the 55%. And what we do know is we got the full sherry maturation. So this has had plenty of time to open up. Let's go in on the nose and see what awaits us here. So I'll just say on the neck pour, the nose a little bit, but later stages, this whiskey was hot. Almost too hot. On the neck pour, here it's really calmed down. The 55% is not anything that's overwhelming. And the dominant notes I'm getting is a nice, rich sort of leather that I think is in keeping with what I think of sort of Macallan. It's a little nuttier on the neck pour. The leather is really present, more so as that kind of note more dominant. It is covered in chocolate, milk chocolate, orange, and there is a berry. It started out cherry, now it's like a strawberry filling, like a baked. It's rich. All the flavors I'm describing are pretty sweet, pretty rich. There's a spice. It's from the bake rack. It's not cinnamon. It may be nutmeggy. There's also a little ginger. It's very pie filling sort of spices. It's nice. Those are nice, welcoming flavors. On the palate, so 2 weeks later, it's calmed down as it's opened up. It's not nearly as hot as it first presented, but it does sneak up on you a little. You hold it on the palate, and you're fine. It's comfortable. You're going through the checklisting the different flavor elements, and suddenly it rises up. Sort of on the back of the sort of palate, you're kind of getting that sensation, and then into the finish, where you get sort of some of the heat. As sort of the flavors go, we have a lot of follow through here. Milk chocolate, again, is dominant. It had cocoa powder at the beginning of my experience with this whiskey. Now, though, sort of opened up. It's got the texture, like almost a grit texture of a powder, but it's like a vanilla protein powder almost in texture with the vanilla flavor, right? There is more of that berry, and it really doesn't have a tartness. It's very sweet, rich, kind of strawberry. Yeah, as you hold it, the chocolate kind of sort of condenses into almost a Tootsie Roll, like a candied chocolate. And there really emerges texture and presence from the cask and from the heat. You get that black pepper feeling. You've got the oak spice there. The fruit is really, that berry is really dominant. And I think I've lost a little bit of the orange, sort of citrus that I had before, and that returns on the finish. On that finish, yeah, it's gone cocoa powder again, but it's creamy kind of milk chocolate kind of flavor, but that cocoa kind of dusting over everything. The leather kind of note returns. As the finish develops, I'm getting a little bit of the orange citrus underneath some of the influence from the cask and the heat. I'm getting the pepper across the tongue again. I'm getting the oak spice. It is a very rich experience. It's the hottest, so it is the most challenging. Not for you and me, but it's not as sippable as the Palate. It's long. It's rich. I wish that it would reveal something else to me, but it hasn't quite got that other gear, that other sort of dimension to show me. This is not the sherry because it's so expensive. I never buy that. But I did review this double cask. It is 43%. It is chill filtered. It is American and European oak, but the ratio is going to be much more even than we have here. And you can see the color. Now, they're both 12-year whiskeys. And you can see, and they're naturally colored whiskeys. And it's not even close. I mean, look at this. Now, obviously, we have a huge difference with the amount of whiskey in these bottles, respectively, with 43 and 55%. But just the sort of tone here, so red, so rich on this 110 proof. And when I go in on the nose on the standard Macallan, and there it is, that Macallan-y kind of leathery kind of quality. But this one is giving me some of the sort of just really rich chocolate sweetness, but more dimension, I think, on the sherry qualities. Not on the whiskey, but just the number of different things that I can kind of pick up that I associate with sort of sherry notes. It's definitely the brown sugar versus that rich chocolate. There's more cask here on the nose. It's very different. Stone fruit and vanilla elements that are showing up. And on the palate, baking spice is sort of rich, sweet. There's sort of vanilla and a balance with all the sherry stuff. But what I'm getting here blows this off the table because it's so rich. I'm getting fewer elements. This is simpler, but so deep and so rich. It's so much more satisfying. Anytime I do this and I compare whiskeys that have commonalities and then they have differences, the differences are always amplified, and when you go from one to the other, you really pick up on it. So I'm getting that vanilla. It's not bourbon cask, but it's American oak, and I'm getting so much of it, vanilla sort of caramel over here, whereas I've got what I've talked about over here, which is so rich. Again, this is not a bad whiskey for what it is. This is a very good whiskey. I really wish that it had just another card to turn over. I wish there was one more corner of the wheel that was in play here that would really set off what is here with a little bit of emphasis. So let's go hunting for that. Let's see if we can find it when we put the water in. So obviously it's a 55%, and yeah, let's go hit it a little bit more just to make sure we got a really nice volume here, so I'm not drowning it. So I've got a little bit of the water here, and that's probably about a 15 ml pour, so I'm gonna give it, yeah, 3 good drops, which is probably about a quarter teaspoon, maybe a little bit more, and boom, it's exactly what I expect to happen. I'm getting a really new dimension here, bringing it a little bit closer to the 12 you were talking about. It's buttery now, butterscotch caramel, apple now for the fruit. That leather can't be killed. It's new leather now. It's like a new handbag, new pair of shoes, like something like that when you open that up. Cinnamon. And cinnamon, almost not from the spice rack, cinnamon candy, cinnamon gum, like that type of cinnamon. So there's a sweetness to it. Let's see on the palate. I was hoping for more on the palate. Chocolate is just, you can't get around it. It's that milk chocolate. And there is like a brown sugar, sort of the other side of the coin of the sweetness that I associate with a little bit more sherry. And that probably has a little bit underneath it in the mix, some of the sherry spice, giving a little texture and a little bit of a different quality. Still sort of peppery, lively, very manageable on the palate. On the finish, it's real mocha coffee now. I'm getting way more of the cask, way more of the sort of tannins. The heat's been turned way down, so I'm being able to kind of perceive that. I'm not getting a lot of new dimension, but I am getting a sort of a tempering, sort of nice, satisfying, not like bitter, like tannic, straight up bitter, but like a nice coffee kind of, but a chocolate, like a mochaccino kind of coffee kind of element to it. So if you think this is too sweet or too chocolate, the water is bringing that element in to sort of balance it out. I really like this whiskey. It's not transcendent. It just doesn't have enough dimension for me, but it's very satisfying. And for what this style of whiskey, Speyside, despite what it says on the bottle, fully sherry matured whiskey, it is really satisfying. Once you sit with this and sort of acclimate to it, it's pretty sippable. I really have enjoyed the pours that I've had out of this bottle. It's 4 1/4 glasses in the glass. Easy, no problem with that rate. So we have to now talk about value. $145 I paid for my bottle. From what I understand, that's a pretty high premium that I paid. That's what it was on, available to me for. I've seen it on, insert major regional, retailer in the US website for $130. I've seen people talking about reviewing this whiskey and talking about it in the 120s, and that's a big difference. 12-year double cask is fully sherry seasoned casks, but it's American and European oak, ratio unknown, is about $85. It should cost less than $70. It's at least 20% overpriced. Whereas the 12-year that's the sherry cask, I see it up to $100, as low as, in the 80s, but $100, that's another sort of 20% beyond the one that has the American cask, the double cask. This is mostly European oak, but I don't know how much, and I don't know the ratio because there isn't enough transparency to tell me that. But they're suggesting to me that it is 5-1 European oak versus the American oak. So it's more analogous probably to the 12-year, the sherry cask 12-year, 43%, $100. So I paid $45 more. Some people are paying $30 more. They're only paying 30% premium to get from 43% to 55%. Why I'm bringing this up is that the older Macallan gets, the more egregious the overpricing gets. 18-year Macallan costs $400. That's bananas. That's madness. That's twice what the whiskey should cost. Whereby the 12 years are probably 20 to 25% overpriced. But I paid more for this than I paid for my Bunnahabhain 12 cask strength, a limited release that is full cask strength, that is full transparency, that I know is non-chill filtered, and so I am going to reduce this by quarter glass, and I'm going to say 4 glasses, a very respectable rating. I really feel like that's a real accurate representation of my experience with this whiskey. I've really enjoyed it. It's very satisfying. It hasn't really challenged me, broadened my horizons at all, but I've enjoyed it, and I think that's the right rating. Let me know. Have you had this one, and what do you think? How does it compare to your experiences with Macallan in the past? And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. That big button's going to pop up right over there. If you haven't subscribed, click that, because the sooner we get to 5,000, you see where we're at right now, I'm going to do my review of Bruichladdich Black Art. So you don't want to miss that. I will see you on the next one.